Okay. Welcome everyone to the Me Vision Academy Award handover. It's really wonderful to have you with us. A couple of our special guests, colleagues have joined us. I'm going to pin Peter because today is about him. Let me just get you on a pin. Yeah, there we go. First have to remove pin. There we go. So we'll introduce Peter in a moment. But right now, I'm just welcoming all of you. We are presenting a special award of successful leadership, and we really don't take those two words lightly. After doing so, we will interview Peter on the very reasons why he's receiving the award. You know, for almost a quarter century, literally, we have been interviewing and working with top leaders, and also on all levels, but interviewed all the way up to presidential level. We've written a few books, we've co-authored a few, written hundreds of articles, and this has sort of culminated in what we call the Me Vision Academy. And one of its purposes is exactly what we're going to do today. It's to learn from, it's to firstly discover and find successful leaders. And then the idea is to recognize them and celebrate them, to learn from them, to inspire others to also become successful leaders, however you define that. It's something the world needs absolutely desperately in business and politics, and will need it more and more as we head into the next few years and the next decade in our society. So today we've got Peter Steenkamp here. He's the CEO of Harmony Gold. I think 45,000 employees. They're obviously here on the African continent and on the Australia side, Papua New Guinea side. So Peter, it's really good to have you with us.
Thank you, Adrian, and thanks for having me today. It's really a privilege.
Yeah, honestly, the privilege is ours, and the people also who joined us for the brief certificate handover, or we call it certificate, but it's an award. Peter, you have clearly, and let me welcome everyone. It's really nice to have some colleagues here. There's quite a few of them that are going to witness this. And you have clearly led successfully for the last few years. I know you have at least led Harmony for 6-7 years now, since you've come back to Harmony. For us, that means you have led yourself successfully on some level. You have led people, many of them successfully, obviously with your team. You have led an organization successfully. So it's the individuals, it's the people, and then the broader organization, the strategy, you know, the systems, the processes, the budgets, all of those things. But you've also led society successfully. When you lead a large organization like this, your people go into communities. So when business is successful, they're successful. We can just ask everyone to mute when you come in, please. Thank you. You've led, and you've served on other, you know, in other bodies, and your influence has stretched beyond just Harmony. So we honestly congratulate you, Peter. We don't give these lightly, and society doesn't recognize leadership success enough. We're very quick to jump on failures, but we need to inspire more through leadership successes. We also know that you have not been perfect, no doubt. You know, no leader is perfect. We have no doubt that you've learned a great deal, even though you may be towards the last few years of your formal career. You know, then we talk of something called retirement. I don't know if we really retire these days, but you know, that's on the horizon for you in the next while. And this is so appropriate, I think, to have this moment with you. So yeah, I'm just saying congratulations, Peter, and then we'll show the award for everyone here as we record. Any quick comment?
No, thank you, Adrian, and really it's quite a humble experience to get the award. You know, I never expected it. Yeah, and you know, I say, you know, leadership is always something that you probably, you know, you grow by exposure a lot, and where you are and where you see good things happening and what type of things will bring the things. And certainly from my side, you know, I'm just very humble to receive the award, and I always dedicate it roughly to my team. I mean, the team is really the people that brings you where you are.
You've got an amazing team. I know that from personal experience. So I'm going to share screen, and then I'm going to go into the actual award. Um, just take that away, and that. It's an exclusive recognition, Peter, of successful leadership. It's a very broad term, but that's what we're going to unpack. In general, you've led successfully. Awarded to Peter Steenkamp for these 5 things, in essence: consistently leading self successfully, consistently leading people successfully, successfully leading a Harmony Gold as CEO for 5 years plus. Now, that's very importantly because it shows the consistency. And that's why we put the 5 year plus there. But also positively impacting broader society. And finally, your commitment to mentoring, inspiring future successful leaders, directly and indirectly. I know Harmony invests a great deal in developing leaders and a powerful culture. And that's indirectly and directly under your stewardship. And of course, signed by just one of the co-founders, it's Me Vision Academy. For us, it's a journey to best self-confidence. We're all on the journey to our best self, and we feel you've achieved so much of that. So that is the recognition that we'll send to you, Peter. And we'll also send you this recording that we're now going to have on leadership. And we thank everyone for joining us. You're welcome to, you almost want to unmute everyone and they must all clap hands. But we really thank you all for joining. I'd love for us to hear from some of the people, but we're not going to do that. We just thank you for joining us. We really do. And if you're able to stay on for a few minutes and listen to the actual conversation, of course, you're absolutely welcome. There's some claps there from Herman Perry and others. You are welcome to stay on, but it's up to you. So Peter, let's just go on into a bit of a conversation. You and I, a few years back, actually, we also had a leadership interview, if I'm not mistaken, and I remember that fondly. But what have you learned about leading self? When I say leading self in leadership, how important is that, and what are some key things you've learned?
Yeah, I think, for me, really as a person, I mean, since a very, probably young age, probably was quite ambitious, wanted to make something. I come from a family where we have 5 children, and we were really from our father's side, which was first in the military and then in the police. Military, I talk about the Second World War, and then the police. He had a very embedded on us, and got all our kids to be quite. First of all have to get a good degree. Everybody's got to get somewhere, and we all from a very humble beginnings got to a point where all are graduates. I think except for my one brother, unfortunately passed away now. All are became graduate, became professional people, and so we grew up in that whole thing about actually be the best you can possibly be, and try and not. And even, going to university and going through that phases of your life where you have a lot of fun and stuff like that, I was always the kind of very conscious about, getting your degree in time, 4 years in mining degree, passing every time, making sure that, I studied well for my exams. So in Afrikaans, we call it real pliggie, in a certain way, but also, having fun with the people and playing rugby and leading the rugby team and the classes and things like that. So, always trying to be, whenever you do something, let's not try and be. Mediocrity is obviously something that I don't necessarily subscribe to, and try to do well in what you do. I think, that really started now at a very young age. Getting through the ranks in terms of, in a mining career, there are certain things that you obviously have to make sure that you do well in, and that is, when I was a shift boss, I didn't try to be just a shift boss. I tried to be the best shift boss on the shaft. And when I was a mine captain, the same. As an engineer, starting as leading shafts, kind of thought what will be the things that will make this shaft special, and try and do the best, not only for myself, but also for obviously the greater team that we had there. So in terms of leading yourself, I think importantly for everybody is that you have to, you said it just now, you have to be the best you possibly can be. Obviously, you will never be perfect, but you must never aspire to be to really develop yourself and to get your things. And I must say, the last number of years, but just in COVID time, I started to do a course in narrative therapy, which is totally out of my comfort zone. And I learned so much about that in terms of, how to deal with people by doing that. It was actually quite a 2-year course, and I think it actually was, developed me for the better, especially preparing me for retirement one day, etc. So that's, but I really, developing yourself and being the best you can possibly be, not accept, mediocre kind of performances from yourself. You always believe that you can do better, but not in a bad way, not in a hugely competitive way, and you're always better with a team rather than you as a person on your own.
Thanks, Peter. Just before I go on, I neglect to mention the old man, my dad. We've been on this journey for 25 years together. So he keeps the wisdom in the conversation. So welcome, old man. Thank you for joining us. I didn't do that in the beginning. I apologize.
Thanks, Louis. Thanks for having me.
I'm just surprised, Peter, that you don't look older. Because I haven't seen you physically for a while. The same with Bayers. It shows you guys are managing to manage yourself. But it's good to be with you. Really it is.
Yeah, so Peter, I mean, what I hear you say is always strive towards your best self, and not just in your current job, but you've done something outside of your comfort zone, which I think we can all take cue from that. Is think a little bit broader than just being the best shift boss. How can I be a better husband, a better father, a better
absolutely,
whatever it is. Just those two words, best self, is something we push very hard at Me Vision Academy. Is that striving to always be that. When you wake up in the morning, you think, how can I be my best self today? One can make that very specific and very daily almost.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Adrian. I think but it's also a kind of a attitude towards life. It is something that you have to develop, and also obviously, you must nurture it and be. But there's so many things today in life, that creates people. You think about the circumstances in the country sometimes, and depression that is so high, and people don't feel that they've been achieving. Now, luckily, for us sitting in this kind of roles that we sit, we never actually had that feeling. Where people feel that they are, you feel that you are not achieving and you're not performing. We always got recognition in our lives, obviously not only at work, but also at home, in society, in when you are with your friends and things like that. So you have to. It's an attitude that you need to develop, and in today's world, we see a lot of people that battle with that attitude in terms of not being able to cope with disappointments and things like that over time, and that is an attitude, or a good Afrikaans word for that will be ingesteldheid. When you have to actually make sure that you are ready and in place, and try and be the best, and have a positive outlook on life. I think it's important, in specifically working in mining, and being, seeing the glass half full, seeing the opportunity, seeing that, of course, there will certain things that will be, that will have a risk and you have to worry about. But I mean, seeing the positive side is I think a very good, be good for every person to be the best self they can possibly be.
Thanks, Peter. And by the way, I certainly didn't have an opportunity to congratulate you and the team on how you led through COVID. We're way past that now, but I know through Bayers and his team, just the brilliant way in which Harmony led this big force of employees through COVID. Now, let's just look at the next element. Whether you're the president of a country or the CEO of Harmony, or whether you're a shift boss, you're always going to lead people. Okay, and even back home, you lead people. Leading people is a universal component of leadership, as I always share with leaders. And I just want us to explore that a little bit. What have you learned about leading people in the last few years? I'm sure you've learned lots over your whole career, but how do you feel about people, and how do you lead them? What's your philosophy, your approach there?
Yeah, Adrian, I was very lucky in a certain way that I actually were exposed to good leadership, I think, very early in my career. Now, there's always, in any person, I mean, when I was after school, I joined the military, like all South Africans had during national service. And I was lucky I was in the mechanized infantry, and the leadership that we had that was probably the cream of the crop in terms of, you know, leadership in a defense force at the time that was leading the mechanized infantry. And for that reason, you know, we were exposed to very, very strong leaders in that field. And you know, so from a very early age, I saw, you know, the one thing that actually glue, you know, a good operation or a good performance or anything that together is leadership. And, you know, I've got four very distinct areas I always look at in terms of how would you get operations going. And, you know, and one of the big four is this leadership quality, the quality of leadership right through the organization. So I was, you know, as specifically in the military, and then secondly, when I started working on the mines, you know, I worked in Anglo Gold, of the Anglo-American Gold Division on Vaal Reefs, and I was just extremely lucky that I was exposed to very, very strong leaders that actually mentored me when I was very young. And later on, you know, obviously had a big impact on my life was a guy like Andre Wilkins, which was the CEO of ARM and also the CEO of ARM Gold, which, you know, was probably one of the strongest leaders and the most consistent strategist that I've ever met in my life. And, you know, and also a person that obviously had a massive belief in me and the rest of the people. So in the end of the day, you know, you are exposed to these people and you learn from them, and you see what works and doesn't work. I also worked for leaders that was not good leaders in my lifetime, and certainly, you know, so you had the good and the bad and the certain things. And the one thing that I always said about these leaders is that they've got such a you know, presence in terms of bringing the best out of every person that worked with them. That actually makes a massive difference in terms of the way that they look at things. So in the last number of years, I mean, obviously, you know, I've been leading now quite a number of teams prior to Harmony with Sasol, the coal division of Sasol. You know, and, you know, the big thing is always to create, like I think I spoke to you for my life, you know, create this vision about where we want to go and make that a compelling argument for everybody that wants to go there. And I think in Harmony, when I walked into Harmony, it was, first of all, it was extremely dry that time of the year, 2016. I remember going to Welkom and there was basically no grass. Looked very terrible in terms of, you know, and there was no rain. It was really, really not in a good shape. And the company was not in a good shape. A lot of debt, low market cap, low share price. And to actually create the vision, how that we can possibly get out of that, and the action plans that goes with that, which was fantastic. And what is great is from the, you know, in the last number of years is that you saw that the team that I had at the time, you know, how they actually, you know, they were looking for this hope and this thing, and how they actually totally cottoned onto what we wanted to do as a team. And not only me, I mean, we together decided this is what we want to do, and how successful it was over time, because it was not easy. It was, you know, we had lots of, we didn't have money. We certainly couldn't afford the assets that we wanted to buy from Anglo Gold Ashanti. We only had a dream, and eventually getting ourselves through that process to go through and eventually landed the first one and landed the second one. Yeah, it was a massive effort. And again, I say that it's an effort of the team, not necessarily myself, but then starting to believe in one another. And where we are now as a company, I mean, we are in such a good position in terms of, you know, we got hardly any debt. We've got, you know, the company's got a massive future ahead of it. And it's a, you know, total different company, biggest gold producer in South Africa. We are, our all-in sustaining costs in dollar terms are exceptionally good, you know, compared to our peers. And that's all like kind of picking up yourself from your bootlaces in a certain way, you know. So it's quite a difficult thing to have done, but very rewarding, and obviously very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's interesting, Peter, and maybe old man, you can come in here. I don't want to forget about you, but you know, as I get back into meeting leaders that we now award with a successful leadership, it's almost like, you know, kids who grow up and have good parents have a good start in life. They're fortunate, they're lucky, call it what you want, but you grow up in a home with caring, loving parents. It gives you a good kickstart in life. And I'm picking this up from successful leaders. Is they say that early on in my career, I was exposed to good leaders, and I was lucky enough to have good leaders. that seems to be a golden thread, and one can't underestimate that first contact you have with a leader or leaders above you and around you, the impact it has on formulating your mind on what leadership is about. So we can expand on that a great deal. But Old Man, I don't know if you want to make any comment before we continue.
Yeah, Peter, I have an affinity with what you say. Thank you. I remember years ago, Peter, I was in a meeting with the army in those days. Constant Viljoen was then head of the army, and they were discussing with us the strategy, and he was saying their slogan really was "Ons is wenners," we are winners, and the influence of that kind of leader has a profound impact. Peter, I just want to mention one point though. You show the capacity though that you don't blame the leaders for any problems you may have. You look for the positive in them, you sift, and that becomes part of you. So sometimes, even if we're exposed to poor leaders, we can find the good by separating the good and the bad. And you show that ability, which is part of your character, I suppose.
No, I think that is specifically, Louis, thanks for that. And I mean, again, you have to take, I mean, you learn through experience. I mean, obviously you learn a lot through, your studies and things, but you learn a lot through experience. And seeing what works and doesn't work is a good thing. And, it's good to learn from that. And even if you do have, like you said, bad leadership experiences in a certain way, or things that doesn't work out for you, you learn a lot from that. I mean, you have to, and that's, so it's always, nothing is ever in vain. It's always to the good cause.
Peter, something before we step off people, I just want to, I like this topic a lot because it's something I've learned in the 25, almost a quarter century of visiting with leaders. I've discovered a lot of P's in leadership, words that start with a P, and it's profound. To give you an example, I've also discovered that leadership is a lot about power. Leaders have power, okay, but you can have good or bad power, and a lot of leaders exert power through all these P's. Now, those P's are position, possessions, prestige. We've got popularity. You've got performance. You've got profits. So but then you also have people, and you have purpose. So there's a lot of P's in leadership, and leaders often think that you need to exert your power through some of those P's, and then they subconsciously or consciously prioritize those P's. Where do you think people lie on those P's when you look at performance, profits, people, purpose?
Yeah, in my book, none of those other things other than dealing with people actually, makes you a successful leader or not. Obviously, when you have all the other, the power and the position and everything else, you can. But a good successful leader is the people that take the people with you. Now, first of all, surrounding with the right people, and as I said, champions. I always, as you know, I'm very fond of rugby, and I always say there's no use to put a Peter Steenkamp on the wing because you're never going to score a try. But if you put those two wings of South Africa, Colby and the other one on the wing, you're certainly going to take those opportunities and score tries like we saw this weekend. So you have to put the right people in the right spots and actually, surround yourself with the right people. And I think that is the thing. So, I don't know. Maybe the other thing is always, to me, always important. And I think I messaged it to Bayers the other day in a combi. One of the things I always look at is how people treat people that are, in a subordinate position. I'm always say the waiter and the secretary. If you want to appoint a person and understand how strong he will be, look at how he treats his secretary and how he treats his waiter. A waiter when you get to a restaurant, and if they treat him with respect and those kind of things, then obviously that will work well. I mean, it is respect is and care is probably one of the two big areas that you have as a leader. First of all, caring for your people, but secondly, also have massive respect, not only for your own people, but also for people in the community and any other things that you have And you have to, those are the traits of a strong leader, and where people will follow that leader and will actually cotton onto the leader and cotton onto his vision and cotton onto where he wants to go. If you have respect and care for people. And so, to me, that is probably the only, a good trait or a characteristic of a leader that actually differentiate himself from everybody else. It's very easy to demand. It is another thing to actually get people to run the road with you and be with you.
I listened to a sort of a philosopher who's in his 60s the other day say he's never in all his life come across anyone who is loved, truly loved by others because of their money or because of their position or because of their status. You're loved when you show compassion to others. Then they'll start loving you as a human being. They don't love you for the other things. There might be respect, there might be those sort of things, but that compassion, that caring side is so important. That's how you gain trust, personal trust, not professional trust. And someone can you can trust someone professionally when they just perform and do well, but that personal trust comes with those qualities that you just mentioned, Peter. And thank you for that. You can be really good at leading yourself. You can be really good at leading people. But I have come across leaders who almost fail in taking the business, the organization forward, if you know what I mean. So what are some of the key elements you've learned in terms of successfully leading the organization? Obviously, the vision. So we've got that. Fine. You've got a clear vision, a dream where you're taking the team. But then to make this machine work and be profitable and cost effective, just some key pointers there, that more practical, the managerial side, perhaps.
I think I mentioned before, is you have to surround yourself with the people that actually understand your business a lot. I mean, you think about particularly Harmony, when we started, I mean, one guy that specifically had a massive influence in terms of also bringing all these dreams down to the back is a guy like Frank Abbott. Frank is a very, very astute financial person. And, you have to give him the level of respect and trust his vision. Obviously, Boy Piller took over from him equally as well. There are teams like, people within our organization that really knows how to do certain things and give you right. And you have to give them enough airtime and trust their judgment and vision. But then, of course, I mean, in any business, there's certain fundamentals that need to be in place. You cannot buy stuff you cannot afford. You cannot, your balance sheet is important. Your operational excellence. And in my view, in terms of mining, is a very, 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 very simple philosophy. First of all, it is about your infrastructure and how those things are managed. And I think in Harmony, when we started with Harmony, with the help of my team, Bayers, Robert, everybody else has done a fantastic job in actually making our operations predictable and making them, no unplanned events that happen that makes it, because the last thing you want is, as an owner of a company, to have this massive unpredictability in your organization. So it's all about infrastructure, having the right assets in place, putting the right effort and money into them, making sure that they are operating at the optimum. And that is why we are so absolutely focused on housekeeping and excellence and things like that. The second part of that is obviously your operational things, like how do you actually run your operations? I mean, it is still a science, a mining science, and you have to have them optimally. You have to have them in place. You have to have right ventilation, the right logistics, the right mining methods. All of those things are important. So from a mining engineering perspective, these things are important. They have to happen. You can't just put people there that doesn't understand where they operate. And I'm so glad to say in Harmony, mining deep level mines, we've got probably the best of the, we possibly can have to mine these things. People that are knowledgeable about the mines that they operate at, so that we can actually manage seismicity, we can manage the risk that we have, we can logistically do it, sort it out, we can, from a ventilation perspective. And if you look at, how much money we've spent in the last number of years in terms of improving ventilation and things like that. So and those are the hard things that you have to fix and making sure that things are in place. And then, of course, you also have the soft things, which is leadership, the quality of leadership. And again, in our organization, it's not about, the care and the respect that the CEO has. That obviously permeates down the organization, but there's also the care that the team leader and the miner and the shift boss actually have for his people. And if we can entrust that into that organization, that whole, you know, the leadership quality of the organization is right through from top to bottom. And we're so glad with the process that we followed now that we actually see. I'm very, you know, enthusiastic about and optimistic about the outcomes that we're going to see going forward. And you can see it already now, surveys that we do in terms of culture and things like that, in terms of how these things will actually permeate through the organization and make us to be the best we possibly can have. And then, of course, the other one, the switch on people. You cannot just, you know, you have to spend time with people to switch them on. You have to have the right programs. You have to have the right way in how you treat them and address different things, and motivate and mobilize them over time. And, you know, those have always been my things in terms of how do you get an organization to become successful. And of course, from a financial perspective, yeah, you have to be very astute in terms of what you're doing. And our business is not easy. It's going a little bit better now than it did in the past, but we came through very, very tough times in the past. And I think that's what I always say, you know, if you've been in gold mining for such a long time that, you know, I've been, you know, there was good times and there were bad times, and the bad times were probably more than the good times in terms of price and the rest of things. And you know, the quality of you know, leadership and management and, you know, is actually very good in the gold mining industry. The people that actually came through that process, because very early in our life we ran out of spare cash. I was still very young when, and my peers in the platinum industry and everybody else was printing cash at the time, and we had to, you know, push every cent twice and making sure that we get the full value for that money to try and be, you know, to survive. So you know, so these things, you know, what I'm trying to say is, from a business perspective and also from an operational perspective, you have to be astute in terms of what you do. You must understand what you're doing, and there's no use that you bring, in my view, you know, people into gold mining that doesn't understand that, you know, because you have to experience that, you have to learn it over time and get it going and get it running. Yeah, Adrian, so it is about that in business for me. The fundamentals are important. Predictability, flexibility, all of those things are important for the business.
Yeah, and you certainly have brought that into harmony with your team. So before we move on to just the last wrapping up side of the conversation, which is about how do we get more leaders like you, you know, the mentoring side that Harmony has done so well at. But just, old man, do you have any question or comments before I move on?
What Peter is saying just confirms Adrian Mark's feelings about context intelligence. All meaning is contextual, and when he explains the full scope of the industry that's in, it shows a grasp of all the various factors affecting the context, because one moment, one thing dramatically affects it, the next moment something else. So context intelligence is a most valuable tool for a leader of the quality of Peter. I just appreciate hearing that.
Thank you, old man. Peter, I mean, how important is it for us to mentor and give more leaders experience of good leaders and to create more successful leaders out there? We would like to be able to hand a successful leadership award to all the Harmony leaders in all industries, you know, everywhere. If only we could hand out thousands of these with authenticity, how better organizations would be, how better our society would be, how better politics would be, my goodness, all over the world. But it's a dream that we have, is to create more Peter Steenkamps, more successful leaders, and with a good mind and authentic attitude, give them such awards. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, in Harmony, outside Harmony, doesn't matter. Just, are we mentoring fast enough? Are we developing good leadership fast enough? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Adrian, I think we can always do better. I mean, we obviously have a process, and I think our process is, we are, you know, I would say big, but also small enough to be able to at least look at, you know, the top echelons, the management teams of the different operations, to be close enough to them. And importantly is that we actually spend great opportunities for these people to develop and grow. And that is through, you know, the way we structure reviews and things like that, etc. Because, you know, you need to give the guys one side it must be systemic and it must be worked properly, but second place also the freedom to put their own stamp up, so you can actually see which persons are actually developing over time, etc., and see what development areas there are for people. But if we look at, I was when I joined the mining industry, and specifically in Anglo the Gold Division, we had a very structured way of actually looking at mentoring and proteges of specific people, and development areas and panel interviews and things like that, which stood us in good stead. I mean, I must be honest. I mean, we are in the interviews in the face of people, but the important thing is that we actually find time to spend with our teams, that we find not only on a operation, but also in a social way, that we do have the dinners together, or things like that we can mingle and have that interaction with people, that people also see that we are just normal people like anybody else. I think it's important that we build that personal relationship. I think importantly is also to believe in the people. I mean, if we make selections in terms of who's going to be the next trusted person on a specific area, that we actually trust the people and actually get the people to and believe in them and give them enough space to operate. I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't be operating at a level below where you should be operating at. So you have to get out of the space of the people that you're comfortable with at the time, and so creating that environment is important, but like I said, it's social and obviously structural. But the structural part of it, I think we are fairly well in place in harmony in terms of having proper reviews. I do have reviews with everybody, all the organizations. Talk about the management teams on different operations. So you get to know them and see them in operation. But then, of course, also have the non-structural things that we create over time. But I think it's again about you have to be the person that the people want to follow. So you cannot just do things that or behave in a way that people will not follow you. You have to always correct yourself and make sure that you are right. And I think over time, luckily I'm from a personal perspective, I'm not a person that gets excited quickly. So I sometimes, like any person, do get a little bit annoyed with certain things if things doesn't go right, but I don't get excited much, and try and never play the man, but always the ball, try and help and assist, and believe in your people. I think that's the most important thing to. But so we are very blessed in harmony that we have fantastic leaders in all levels in the organization, and certainly when we bring in new blood, that we have to spend time with them and making sure that they also are. Not to try and overrun their own personal personalities, but that they also are ambassadors and are keen supporters of where we want to go and our leadership style that we have in Harmony. Very importantly for me, always have an open door policy. Any person can walk into, any person can phone you at every time of the evening, not only your own people. Talk about also that sometimes suppliers. I know my people get a lot annoyed when somebody phones me about problems, and then they, I've got to. Then I'm, obviously inquire if these things are correct, and then people get annoyed. But, I'm glad for the fact that people will actually come and speak to me, because many of these people I know for many years. I worked in the communities that they operate at the moment for, for in Cultable, Welkom and Klaasdorp areas for many years. So I know them, and so they phone me, and they've got I would say, they trust me to phone me about the issues that they have. And yeah, so that, open door policy for everybody is important.
Peter, are you going to miss this? So in a year, 2 years, whatever, you're going to step out and have a new phase of your life. Maybe you're just absolutely ready for it by then. Thank goodness, off I go. But there's something special. Harmony has become a special place.
I certainly would miss coming to the office every day and things like that. Hopefully I will not be totally out and still be, part of some sort of from time to time. But I mean, you have to create a new environment for you when you retire, on my view. So hopefully when I retire, I can try and assist lots of people with issues. That's why I studied that pastoral narrative course for the 2 years, and graduated from that, so that I can maybe help people, that battle with other issues in life. It's going to be tough for an engineer to be part of that part of the world, because engineers are very black and white. Either this is the problem or this is the problem. But so to be more open to that, I think it's all these gray areas that you have to get to. But I think I'm up for it, and let's see how things go. It's going to be, retirement is going to be a new phase. But, like anything else, you have to approach that with positivity, and making sure that you get, the best out of it, and make the most of it. I'm certainly not going to spend a lot more time with my wife, and that's going to be great. So that's always a fantastic to be, because we actually got married the day when I graduated. So that day, that's next Saturday. So we have been through this journey all along, and that has been obviously some fantastic support. But I've been away from home a lot, and it's great that we're going to spend some more time together. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask the old man just to wrap up very briefly, and then ask you for a final message to lead us, because we will, with your permission, share this interview. But Peter, I mean, somehow Harmony has this unique, humble, but tough culture, which a lot of leaders gravitate back towards. They would leave Harmony and come back. I've seen that over the years. That they realize what they've missed. We sometimes, you're in a family. You have a great family, but for you as a youngster, you feel, no, flip, I've got to get out there and stretch my wings and fly. And then eventually you come back and you realize my family is special. Harmony has that family strong something. And I don't know if you've identified it. There's an X factor in Harmony, and it's become clearer and clearer, maybe, where it really is a home for people. But like, you've got to do chores at home, and you've got to be responsible, and you've got to make the family, the tribe work. What are your thoughts on that? Just trying to find that culture.
Yeah, I think Harmony, you're 100% correct, Adrian. It's all about the family. It is and the family do have, differences, but they do care for one another, deeply care for one another. And I think that is something that we as a team has done. I've seen the same at Sasol Mining. I mean, there's also a massive family culture there, because people that work there doesn't go somewhere else. They always come back to Sasol. But other than that, I haven't experienced that much in the old Anglo Gold. Varys probably were different, but because they are so big at the time, it was not that. But certainly it has been the two companies I worked in where we really had this family kind of together, and people sit together. And like I said, it's a tough environment, but it's also a caring environment, and people love being in that things. I think one of the biggest advantages in all of that is that people can be themselves. We don't necessarily have this culture of strike one, strike two, you're out, and that type of thing. I mean, we really do care for people in terms of their own development, but also in terms of developing themselves. We expect, we take it, we will all make mistakes, and we will work to that. I think on that part of the toughness is not necessarily there, in terms of being hard on people. But yes, I think that family values are really, extremely important, and that's what people love, and that's why they are here, and I think they always come back to it. And then, of course, we have enough challenges. I mean, that's the one thing, because if you go through challenges together, you actually build a bond that very few people understand. I mean, I can still relate back to my Pomotsi Gold days when, the people, it was probably the toughest time of my life when I was a CEO of Pomotsi Gold. But the leadership that we had in the team there, I'm still very, very big friends with them because we had such a tough time together, but we really tried to make it work. It was just maybe in the end not impossible to do because of the macroeconomic environment that we're operating in. But we really tried to work in terms of putting effort in and things like that. The other day I was at the Joburg and Darver, met one of the lady that was in charge of our HR. I mean, and the work that she's done with the unions and in the hostels, talking to everybody, and it was just beyond duty. And I will always respect her for that, for what she's done in terms of what we had, and that's what we as Harmony obviously have a lot of, tough situations that we have to eat that bag of salt together, so that we can, so we actually do trust and believe in one another. And I think, that family values are really very important in our organization.
So just as we wrap up, and I go to the old man, then just briefly back to yourself, I must say, as you speak about this, I look at the love between the Springbok team players. I don't know if you've seen a little bit around that. Yeah. I get the feeling there's strategic leadership there. There's the Sia, who's such a relatable guy. Just the way he loves the players and the players. There's this camaraderie. There's this incredible unity, and that's why you can win by 1 point, even though people might say it could go either way. That's what makes the difference, is that love for each other, that trust of each other, that beautiful camaraderie, which then makes you block a kick and do amazing things. And that makes the difference in a very highly competitive environment. It's not going to be 10, 20 points. It's going to be that 1 point because of that culture, because of that love and that caring for each other. And that's what I sense in Harmony. I mean, on another level, you do have the best, like a Springbok team around you.
Yeah.
So well done on that. I mean, that's just a quick example. I had to do that. It's the World Cup, and we had a wonderful weekend there. Old man, very quickly, before Peter gives us just a brief message for leaders.
Adrian, Peter, we often use the word authentic to try and get down to a lack of hypocrisy. And what you are telling us also is the value of being an authentic leader, and giving people the space to be themselves as well. I love that balance. Operationally, it's a tough environment, but somehow giving people the space to be themselves as well, be true to themselves, is the foundation of really a happy performance. But thank you for the confirmation of the immense value of being authentic in your leadership. I appreciate that immensely.
Thank you. Peter, final, just brief message for leaders out there.
Yeah, and I think most of the people on the call are really Harmonites. So first of all, I say a leader is as good as his people. I mean, really, I'm extremely, and I've said it so many times to the team here that I've got, I mean, I'm so blessed to have the best of the best in Harmony. And I'm also so blessed that the loyalty that I do get from the people that we have there. I think it's also important in any leader that you have a sense of humor and have fun. I mean, it's always fun. I mean, you're at work. It cannot be this sober atmosphere where nobody is got to say it. I remember many years ago in this old big corporates, you walk down the passage, just do it quiet, and then carpets as thick as this. That's not Harmony, and it will never be Harmony. Harmony is totally different. Here we enjoy what we're doing. We laugh when there's a joke, and we see your human life, and I think it's good to have that in place. And then, of course, I mean, I really as a team, we always have to put out the challenge out there. There's always something that you have to aspire to have. We've never arrived. I mean, there's always if we think we've arrived, there's always create the new challenge, create the new thing. It's if you win one World Cup, there's always a second one to win with the same team. It's unheard of, and it's fantastic. And so we have to create that, that dream always in our lives. What is the next thing that we potentially can get right? Again, I want to thank everybody for that's with me in my team and all Harmonites. I mean, I've got such a massive amount of respect for all of you, and also obviously a deep care for everyone that is part of this team. And thank you very much, Adrian, again, for you and Louis to honor me. I was unexpected, and I certainly I'll cherish this this award. Certainly be one I'm going to put up on my study when I'm retired.
Yeah, excellent. It represents so much, Peter. I'm just going to very quickly go in there and end with this. So that's it, folks. That's the that's the award that we're giving Peter, exclusive recognition of successful leadership awarded to him for leading self, others, harmony as an organization, impacting broader society, and of course, his commitment to mentoring and developing leaders directly and indirectly. So thank you for joining us. That's Me Vision Academy, giving the Successful Leadership Award to Peter Steenkamp, CEO of Harmony Gold. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Peter, and all the best with your future. I think I'm excited to see you've got this other passion on the side that'll make a difference, and it will. You'll do it authentically, and it will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, team.
Yeah.
Well done,
Goodbye.
Peter.
Congratulations, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Beski.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.